Welcome back to Hospitality, folks. I'm your host, Alicia Dick Wahlberg. My guest today spent 15 years in digital marketing before answering a call she couldn't ignore: the forest. Katarina is a certified forest therapy guide, NLP trainer, and a local tour guide based in Slovenia. She also runs her own nature retreat, Melissa Holiday, where she is literally planning forests for her guests. This one is for every hospitality professional who has ever wondered if slowing down is actually the most powerful thing you can offer. Stay tuned until the very end. There is a very special surprise waiting for you. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome so much. I'm so excited to have you on Hospitality, folks.
Hi, everyone, and thank you. First, I would like to thank you, Alicia, for inviting me on your podcast. My name is Katarina. I come from Slovenia, and I work right now. I work in hospitality. I'm working at the reception desk at one of most beautiful valleys in Slovenia. The hotel is Hotel Plesnik, and I also have my own company where I work as a local tourist guide, forest therapy guide, and I also have a small house to rent. So basically it's hospitality all over. Yeah. This is basically it. Next to being a mom and a wife and everything.
I know you have a very different background to what you're doing now. Could you maybe explain about where you came from and how you transitioned over?
Okay, so I grew up in a part of Slovenia which is also very popular with tourists. Maybe if someone was in Slovenia or is thinking about Slovenia, they will find out about Bohinj. Usually foreigners say Bohinj because it's hard to pronounce, but it's in Slovenia it's Bohinj. So there's a lake, an alpine lake, and I worked there during summers because my mom worked in tourism her whole career, basically. So I was introduced to the tourism, and I worked there in summers. First, I was helping with cleaning the rooms in one of the hotels. And then I also worked with the sport company. So I sell paragliding and rafting and stuff like that for them. And also I was also renting canoes for them at one campsite. And I had a lot of interactions with people. They came to me not just to rent a canoe, but they also had a lot of questions: where to go, what to do, blah blah blah. So, and since then, I always imagined my summers as working with tourists. I didn't think about summers as, oh, I have holidays. I will spend, I don't know, 3 weeks in at the seaside. But I was always thinking about working with tourists because I really liked it. Then I studied Russian and sinology, so Chinese. So during my studies, I also was working at one of Slovenia's biggest news portals as a online journalist. And from there, I finished this to finish my studies. And when I finished my studies, I tried to teach Russian. And after that, I went into marketing. So for the last 6 or 7 years, I was working with one agency in digital marketing, but basically I worked in marketing and this online journalism and everything for more than 15 years. But after that, my husband and I, we bought a land and we decided to build a house on this land and rent it. And this house has a big meadow around it. So we planted a mini forest on this land last autumn, because my idea is to be able to guide the guests who come to our house for a forest therapy, and maybe on this land, that we don't have to go to the forest, which is also very near here, but to stay there. And we also have this herbal garden, and I'm always thinking about which flowers to plant, so that they can pick the flowers up and make the bouquets, while they are staying here. And we have a climbing wall on this house, and we are thinking about a lot of things that we would like when we go on a holiday to make yourself feel at home. So we already hosted a few families, and they were also very excited because of the space that they get. And they also have their some balls and something, so that kids can play and they can sit on a terrace, watch the mountains and watch the sunset and everything. So they really enjoyed there. And this is it always, well, you all know, everyone who works in the hospitality knows how good it is when people tell you, "Oh, we feel really good here, and we like this place, and we are thinking about coming back," even if they don't ever come back. But it just makes you feel good. Yeah,
Do you maybe
that's
have
it.
an example where you had a guest that had such a memorable experience? Maybe the guest who said that they're going to come back.
Basically, since we are renting this house only for yeah, this will be the third season now. So we are very young, and no one really came back, to stay here longer. But we had a lot of this also on. We are also renting this. We have it also on Booking.com. So the rates there are very high, and it's like it's like competing. Yes. Where's this 10? We are so close. And we're trying to think of, I have the idea to also offer our guests not only the house, but maybe to prepare some sort of, I don't know, weekend packages, maybe for families, because there's in Slovenia, there was one very huge, what's that? Back in 15th century, there was a family, they were not kings, but they were really prominent, and they used to live very near here, and they were moving also around here, and there's a castle very near where they lived and so on. So I have the idea how to prepare a package maybe for a family, to give, or just to give them idea what to do, or maybe if they want, I can also guide them. Maybe one day take them to one castle, the other day take them to one passage where one of these people went through, and tell them stories and
Yeah.
yeah.
I can already see with my husband and I, we often like to take our holidays with our 4-year-old, sometimes even our dog, depending on where. And we usually try and look for something that's special in the wilderness, has a bit of homeliness to it. So, I mean, no tents. We learned the hard way in our family, there's no tents going on. But having these small details, like the fact, as you were saying, you are looking to plant these flowers, having the idea that they can go and pick these flowers, have something tangible in their hand, this experience. Walk through a forest that has a very different feeling when there's a forest in your backyard and my kid can just go run and play there. We can interact with nature. We can breathe. That's a very special environment that you are building from the ground up, literally. You've had a lot of different roles in many different areas, and your path, your journey is very diverse. How has your background really shaped and prepared you for one, building your own company, it's a highly experienced based company, and two, also working with guests all day in a hotel right now?
Well, I'm a very curious person by nature. So I'm really interested in a lot of different things, areas, and I think that on all these areas you can find something that can stick to you, and help you make better connections with people, make you better understand them, because in the hotel where I work, sometimes or many times, Google, they put the destination in Google, and then Google tries to find the shortest way to our hotel. But the shortest way is also usually very narrow and very, windy. So they come to the hotel and they're like, "Oh my God, is there another way to come to your hotel?" And you can relate to them. I think it gives you, when you're working in so many areas, maybe your empathy grows. You know, you're also, well, basically I'm also a neuro linguistic programming trainer, and we talked a lot about, different aspects that we see. I really like one saying that we learned quite at the beginning of it, that map is not the land. So, we have a map of one, maybe of one city, and we send 10 people to the city with this map that is totally the same. But when they will come back, someone will tell you a lot about, oh, what a beautiful buildings I saw. The other one will talk about people they met. The other one then will talk about the food they ate. We see the same map very differently. So when you think about that, you can relate to people's stories much easier, even if you don't agree with them sometimes, but you let them tell their story, and you can also think over maybe there is something to it, or you know you just say, okay, that's your story, mine is different. Well, that's okay. And I think, yeah, these areas give you more brighter horizon.
I essentially think that sums up what hospitality is interacting and learning from other people, just being open to hearing their side and saying, okay, that's how you do it, this is how I do it, and making an experience together. One thing I'm coming back to, you are a mom, you're running a business, you're working somewhere, you're doing all of these things, and you're going to forest. I don't know if you're like me, but I often get asked, where do I find all this energy as a mom, as a person trying to run their own business or start their own business, as someone who's working right now as well? Where are you finding that your energy is going? What drains it? And how are you thriving and protecting yourself?
Well, sometimes I get a lot of energy from people that I meet on daily basis, especially working at the reception desk. You're the center of everything that's going on. But I figured out that, even if these interactions give me a lot of energy, they all so take a lot of energy from me. So sometimes, when my shift ends, I'm still very pumped up and full of energy. But then when I sit in my car and I drive back home, I have 40 minutes drive to come back home. So usually when I come back home, the energy drops, I don't know, from 80% or 100% to 20 in an instant. So, sometimes I just go for a walk, or maybe if my shift is in the morning, there's still the afternoon. Maybe I go outside a bit, maybe to the garden, or I just lay down on my couch and watch television with my kids, to be honest. And sometimes it's really hard to find the energy. But if I have time, I really like going to the forest on my own. I don't know, for 2 hours or even more, because the forest, what I found out in the forest is that when I come to the forest, my brain is still, very, it's like monkey mind, or how do you say this in English? But then after, I don't know, half an hour, or maybe sometimes it takes also 1 hour, then there's a point when my brain is shut down and I just sit. I always, when I go to the forest, I always take with me something to sit on. So I just sit there. I listen to, I don't know, to birds, the wind in the trees, and I'm just get so relaxed and so peaceful. My heart rate really drops, and I always wish I was able to stay there much longer. And what I also like in the forest is to find that life is basically, at its basis, life is so simple. And we humans complicate it so much. So this is also one of the reasons why I would like to stay in the forest for longer. And it also, the time, how time runs in forest is totally different. Sometimes 2 hours feel like eternity, but at the same time you want to be there for longer. And I found out also, also some people who went with me to the forest for a forest therapy, they also told me that they were able to completely, shut down, because they also have monkey mind, and they have a lot of things going on what to do, what not to do, what did I forget. But after a while, spending time in the forest or in the park, they really relax. And this is also scientifically proven. But sometimes, when we talk about forest therapy, there's already a lot of proof, how adrenaline hormones drop, how our heart rate drops, that people sleep better after being in the forest, or other ways. Also, the immune system improves when you go to the forest more often, because of more oxygen and all other stuff that's going on in the air in the forest, which is totally different than in the areas where we live. But sometimes, when I think about all these scientifical proofs, I'm really like, why do we need this? Isn't it enough when we just feel it? Why do we need all these proof? So sometimes I'm like, this world is got us completely wrong. We want proof for everything. We want all the answers, and not when we feel things, this is not enough. But basically when you stop for a longer time, or when you try to stop more often, you figure out, like I said before, how easy life basically is. And I don't know why we complicate it. Maybe a week ago, I was listening to the radio, and they were asking kids, some we had election in Slovenia, and they asked kids what good politicians look like, and blah blah blah. But and their answers were so simple, but at the same time so good. So I said to my husband, where in this journey do we, screw ourselves up, to be a grown-ups like we are? We were all these beautiful children with simple minds and everything. And now this.
I completely understand. What I'm curious about is what exactly does forest therapy look like? And what would one expect if they were to, let's say, either go by themselves or to go with their own kid with you?
Forest therapy originates in Japan. I learned the practice from the American Association, ANFT, Association for Nature and Forest Therapy. And basically, we take people. So, our mantra is that forest is the therapist. I'm only the guide who opens the door to the forest. So, I'm not a therapist. And I tell that to people at the beginning, well, you can tell me something personal if you want, but this is not the case. I mean, if you don't want, it's okay. So we go to the forest or to the park for 2 or 3 hours. And the main task for me as a guide is to give people invitations. So I prepare these invitations together. We say that we prepare them together with the forest, so we see what the weather is like, what kind of forest it is. And these invitations help people to focus on here and now and on their senses more easily. You can do this on your own when you go to the forest. Basically, you don't need someone to tell you, oh, now, I don't know, look at a tree and try to spend some time with it and, just notice it, maybe touch it with your hand, maybe touch it with your cheek. I don't know, maybe smell it or something like that. But I found out that people, we are so busy with the everyday life that we forgot how to do this, or that even if we take time and go out, we still are carrying this everyday life with us, and maybe we're not even comfortable with stopping and just sitting for half an hour with no phone, with nothing, just sitting there and watching and listening and smelling and focus on our senses. So every 15 to 20 minutes I give a different invitation, and after all these invitations we come together and we are in a circle. This is a sharing circle. I also explain at the beginning what sharing circle means. So the one who is speaking, no one else is either commenting or asking other questions. So this is how I, and also people who come with me, we hold the space for each other, so that you can be there at the same time. You are alone, but you are with the group, so you don't feel so alone. And with these invitations, you can easily focus on something and easily forget about everything. So there were quite a few people who told me that, oh my God, I'm not good at, slowing down and everything. But then after an hour, at the end, they everyone said, oh my God, I feel so much calmer now. And there's also a lot of people, especially from Slovenia, because Slovenia has almost 60% of the country is covered with forests. So we are like, oh my God, I don't need someone to take me to the forest. I'm there every day, blah, blah, blah. But there were also some people who told me that they have forests behind their house and that they are there every day with their dog and everything, but they've never felt the forest the way they did when they came for a guided forest therapy. That's just because we don't know how to stop, you know?
I immediately got this picture of my husband and I. We go on these hikes quite often, and he is running up a mountain. He's not stopping for anything. And I'm the person like, no, I'll stop and I'll take the pine tree and smell it. If I see lilacs, I'm definitely stopping. And my favorite part about every hike is going down because it's just taking in the beauty, the senses. We can go a little bit slower. And it's my husband's least favorite part of every hike. I completely see the need for a guide, and especially during this time when we have AI who's constantly just helping us go faster and faster. And we're having to, at least I'm having to have answers for all these different topics multiple times a day, whether it's for building the tech side, setting up a customer program, figuring out what my kid will eat today. Like all these things, these tasks, they add up as choices I'm constantly having to make. And so just having someone who's like, hey, we're going to the forest, there's nothing else to do. Just sit here, absorb, hear some thinking parts because getting started is often the hardest. Is there a specific experience that you've seen that nature has made an effect on one or more of your guests after your experience in a session?
The most common thing is that people, they just remember, or they remember how it used to be when they were kids, or, and it brings back these beautiful memories. And I also, one of the groups I had, there was a lady, the first invitation is always some sort of meditation visualization where I guide people through all these senses so that they can fall into this feeling easier. And we also focus on heart. And there was one lady when we were sharing, she shared, I think she was the last. And she was like, okay, okay, then I'll share too. And I was like, okay. And then she told us, and they were co-workers, so they knew each other. And then she told us that when she was, focusing on her heart, that she was able to see and sense her husband who passed away not so long ago. And she said that it was some sort of hard, but also a very beautiful experience, and it was at the first moment we were like, I think maybe everyone was crying, or not maybe, or not everyone, but well, not crying, but I can imagine how that might feel. But then she was, she wasn't disturbed by that, but she was really calm. And I also, when I talk to other guides, especially my colleagues from the States, they very often talk about people who go to the forest therapy to experience grief, or maybe it's a grief for someone they've lost, or it can also, what I've experienced, and also some other people who came with me, was the grief for environment. I'm not sure right now, but I know there's a phrase where you feel so sad about the nature and how we treat nature. It's very interesting feeling, but it has a specific name. But basically, a lot of people, they really calm down. They tell me how calm they are, and they talk about the memories that forest brings back to yeah, from their childhood or something like that.
I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way. And I started laughing when you talked about the way nature is treated, only because we have this flower garden, and every time a ball rolls into it, my son and I will say, "Entschuldigung, sorry, flowers." And we had a birthday party not that long ago, and his friends threw the ball into the flowers, and he's like, "You have to say sorry." And then he was just looking like, "What?" I had no idea what was going on.
I can relate.
But it's so clear. I completely understand. So empathy for nature is 100% a real thing. I'll find the term and I'll place it on top of the video.
Okay.
Final q- Two final questions.
Okay.
What type of person is coming to visit you at Melissa Holiday and also joining you as a guide through the forest?
Well, here at Melissa Holiday, at this our house, there are mostly families. We also had some friends who came here, but basically the house, we build the house envisioning that it's for this sort of people, families. And yeah, we think it's more for families and for people who are looking for us to stay somewhere where it's peaceful, where they can relax, and it's surrounded by nature. And yeah, not for parties. It's also because we have neighbors around here. We live in a neighborhood, we're not somewhere next to the forest, I wish.
Yet, second
Not yet.
location coming soon.
And it's really quiet neighborhood. So we don't want, our guests to. I get very nervous if I hear that they are, kind of having parties. So I'm just preparing to how to go there and please don't make parties because we are not alone here. So yeah, it's basically for families and friends who want to have peaceful vacation. To the forest, different people come. The only thing that I would like to know before I guide a group is, to know if someone has any allergies or if they, I don't know, have some difficulties with walking, and maybe also how old they are, so that I can adjust these invitations, because I cannot say to, I don't know, 10-year-old child, now find a tree and spend 20 minutes with it. It's like, what? So I have to, I don't know, figure out something to make more interactive. But otherwise, the background from people is very different. Yeah.
So, what I'm hearing is if someone is looking to have a mental break, to reconnect not only with nature, but really with themselves and have this peaceful moment that is in a safe community, and they should
Yeah.
talk to you right away.
Yeah, maybe this is one common thing with all these people. They somehow feel the need to go out to the nature, or maybe they just like nature and they want to experience something new. But yeah, I think nature is key because here we have forests, but I know that people are also guiding for forest therapy at the seaside. I had a trainer from, I think he's from San Francisco, and he lived in Los Angeles, and he told us how he guided the forest therapy in the ocean. He took people to the ocean. They were in the water to somewhere like here, and then he invited them, to just be there, like, I don't know, maybe on algae or something like that, and just to let the ocean move them, to feel it. I imagine that that was quite an insane experience.
I also
In a very good way.
absolutely, and I also realize just because I feel that I can connect with nature, but I connect with nature in places where I grew up. So I grew up in the prairie. Think tall grass,
Mm,
very few trees, lots of cows. And so I feel very comfortable in Ostfriesland, where we have essentially in Germany the same type of visual aspects. My first time going into the actual forest, it felt claustrophobic almost. And I can imagine I would also feel uncomfortable in the ocean. So having someone as a safe guide to go into these different environments and have a different feeling from each of them, I can see is very beneficial.
yeah, and it's also, me as a guide, it's my job to try to to hold this space, this contain we say this, to hold the container, and also to be sensitive enough for the people that are coming with you, to to figure out if someone is, yeah, some people can feel very claustrophobic among trees if they are not used to that, or I don't know, maybe they heard a lot of stories about animals and they are just, looking for, oh my God, will someone come and, I don't know, bite us? And yeah, so you have to take care of all these fears, and also, to help people to go to the forest slowly, and, yeah, so that no one will feel very scared, or, start panicking because
I was laughing again because a few years ago we went to Slovakia and we went into this mountain and there were signs everywhere that there was bears in this forest. And we had a dog with us she's a mixture of American foxhound. So she goes after things. And I was so terrified that we would run across a bear that would go after my dog. I had a panic attack 2 hours going up the mountain. Going
I,
down was
I
fine.
believe you.
But going down, my husband saw a bear. Did not tell me.
Yeah.
I could have used you. Just new environments are scary and it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, of course, of course. And it's nothing wrong with that, It's nothing wrong with the feelings that we get. Maybe sometimes it's even better if we know the fears and if we know the feelings, if we are so familiar with our body that we don't, maybe we try to expose it a bit longer, but not to push it, because why to do that? I don't see a meaning. in this.
So, if someone wanted to know more about where to find Melissa Holiday or forest nature therapy with you, where would they go?
If you type my name in Google, you will find a lot of things about me. But Melissa Holiday I have a website, Melissa with one S. Melissa in Slovenian is a word for lemon balm. So it's not a name Melissa, but it sounds like Melissa. So also Melissa Holiday is like, you go to a friend like Melissa Holiday. This was the idea, the marketing idea. But Melissa in Slovene is a word for lemon balm. And when my husband and I read in one book, how this lemon balm calms down your nervous system and everything, it was like, oh yeah, we want people to feel like that in our home. This Melissa or lemon balm is also growing in the herb garden next to our house, so you can prepare your own tea with this lemon balm, this Melissa. So melissa.si is my website. And you can also find me on LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram, or it's just that I create content usually in Slovenian because it's faster. I will be honest, it's faster for me. And with all this AI, see translation, I think everyone can read it in their own language. At least they get the essence.
Absolutely. And they know now that when they come to visit you, that they can talk with you easily. I will also have all the
In
links.
Slovene, we can speak Slovene, we can speak in English. We can, my German is a bit rusty, but I can do that. I can practice Russian, not Chinese. That I forgot, but Russian is there. Or maybe Croatian, or otherwise we will use hands.
I mean, Google
Or Google Translate.
Right in a pinch.
Yeah.
Perfect. I will have all of those links in the description below. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's time for a short forest therapy. I invite you to take, let's say, half an hour, something like that, and go to the forest, to the park, in the garden, wherever in nature you prefer, and it is close to you, and take, let's say, 15 minutes, find a place where you can be still, you can sit down or you can stand, just, to be still, and notice what is going on around you. So what's going on in the direction what you're looking at? Maybe you can turn your head one way and the other way and just check what's going on your right side, on your left side. What is going on behind you? And I wonder what is going on up there. What about what's going on the ground? I hope you enjoyed this short forest therapy, and I invite you to spend more time outside in the nature, with the nature, opening your senses, and just tell me what you are noticing. I wonder. Hope to see you again, and all the best. Bye.
Katarina, thank you so much for this. If you want to experience forest therapy with her or stay at Melissa Holiday, all the links are in the description below. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn and Instagram. If this conversation made you stop for even a second and just breathe, that is exactly the point. Share this with someone in hospitality or in your circle who needs a reminder to slow down. See you next week.